The UES Pioneer drifted slowly toward the massive trading post at Rigel 7, its engines humming with a low, steady vibration that Hannah Park had grown to find comforting over the past 6 months in deep space. Standing on the bridge, Captain Park ran her fingers through her short black hair and took a deep breath. This moment would go down in history books, the third human diplomatic mission beyond Earth's solar system, and by far the most ambitious. "Captain, we're being hailed," said Communications Officer Tae Jin, his eyes fixed on the glowing console. "They're sending docking instructions." Hannah nodded. "Put it on screen and alert the crew. We're about to make quite an entrance. Through the main viewport, the trading post looked like a giant metal flower blooming in space, with docking petals extending outward from a central hub that pulsed with blue-green light. Around it, ships of various designs moved with practiced grace. Sleek vessels that seemed to bend light around their hulls, spherical crafts that glowed with internal energy, and ribbon-like transports that twisted through space without any visible means of propulsion. And then there was the Pioneer. Their ship had been the pride of Earth when it launched, humanity's best attempt at deep space travel with the limited resources of a civilization still recovering from the climate wars. The hull was patched in places where engineers had reinforced it against radiation. The propulsion system combined old fusion technology with experimental faster-than-light drives that scientists were still trying to fully understand. Compared to the other ships at Rigel 7, the Pioneer looked like a child's homemade toy placed among professional art pieces. "Look at them staring," muttered First Officer Jiwoo, who stood beside Hannah. His eyes narrowed as he watched the alien vessels give the Pioneer a wide berth. "You'd think we showed up riding horses." "Let them stare," Hannah replied, straightening her blue uniform jacket. "We made it here, didn't we? Same as them." As they approached their assigned docking area, the crew grew quiet. Through the external cameras, they could see gathering crowds of aliens, some humanoid, others wildly different in form, pointing toward the approaching human ship. Even from this distance, their body language was clear. "They're laughing at us," whispered Medical Officer Hyun, her dark eyes flashing with irritation. "I can see it in the way they're gesturing." Engineer Do-Hyun looked up from his station, his round face flushed with pride despite the mockery. "Let them laugh. This primitive engine got us here in one piece, didn't it? We crossed 16 light years with technology we developed independently." The docking clamps engaged with a heavy thud that echoed through the ship. Status lights turned green across the control panels. "Atmospheric seal confirmed," announced Security Chief Minna. "External environment matches our requirements." Hannah turned to face her crew of 15, the best Earth had to offer. They were a mix of scientists, diplomats, and military personnel, chosen for both their expertise and their ability to handle the psychological pressure of first contact scenarios. Looking at their faces, some excited, some nervous, all determined, she felt a swell of pride. "Remember why we're here," she said. "Earth needs allies and trading partners. We need to learn from more advanced civilizations if humanity is going to thrive among the stars. So yes, our ship looks different. Our technology is behind theirs. But we are not here to impress them with our ship. We're here to show them who humans are." Through the viewport, Hannah could see the welcoming committee forming. 7 different species stood in a semicircle near the airlock. Their formal attire sparkled with materials unknown on Earth, and several wore what appeared to be technological enhancements, as casually as humans might wear jewelry. "They're sending a request for our delegation to disembark," said Tae Jin. "The official welcome ceremony begins in 30 minutes, Hannah nodded, and gestured to the diplomatic team. "You all know what to do. Heads high, everyone." As they prepared to leave the ship, Engineer Do-Hyun approached Hannah with a small device. "The Universal Translator is ready, Captain. Latest version." She took it with a nod of thanks. The translator, another piece of human ingenuity cobbled together from limited understanding of alien languages, was crucial to their mission. Standing at the airlock, waiting for it to open, Hannah caught the expression of an alien diplomat through a viewing panel. The tall, blue-skinned being was speaking to its companions, making a gesture toward the Pioneer that could only be described as dismissive. Several others nodded in agreement, their expressions ranging from amusement to outright disdain. "They think we're primitive," murmured junior diplomat Suho, who had spent years studying alien cultural cues. Hana squared her shoulders. Then we'll just have to show them that humanity has more to offer than they think. The airlock hissed. Open and bright light flooded in. Captain Hana Park led her crew forward to face the gathered representatives of the galaxy, humans taking their first real steps into a much larger universe that, so far, seemed unimpressed by their arrival. Yudhimi. Grand Hall of Rigel 7 shimmered with light reflecting off crystalline walls. Captain Hana Park and her crew stood at attention as representatives from 12 advanced civilizations filed in for the official welcome ceremony. The humans wore their best dress uniforms, navy blue with gold trim, designed to project dignity and professionalism. But next to the flowing, luminescent garments of the alien delegates, they looked as outdated as their ship. The Talon ambassador approached first. He towered over the humans, his elongated body covered in iridescent scales that shifted color with each movement. His eyes, 3 of them arranged in a triangle, blinked in sequence as he examined the Earth delegation. "You traveled between stars in that?" he asked, gesturing toward the viewing window where the Pioneer was visible among the other ships. His translator didn't quite mask the contempt in his voice. Hana stepped forward with a respectful bow. "The UES Pioneer has served Earth well, Ambassador. We're proud of what our engineers have accomplished." A ripple of something like laughter moved through the gathered aliens. The Vaughn delegation, short, stocky beings with grey skin and 6-fingered hands, whispered among themselves. "Please," said the Talon, beckoning the humans toward a large holographic display at the center of the room. "We would love to hear more about your achievement." As they walked, Lieutenant Jun Kim leaned close to Hana. "They're setting us up," he whispered. "This isn't a welcome. It's a show." Hana nodded slightly, but kept her diplomatic smile firmly in place. "Then we'll give them a good one," she murmured. At the center of the hall, the holographic display activated, showing a detailed rendering of the Pioneer. The Talon ambassador circled it with exaggerated curiosity. "Your fusion engines," he said, pointing to the ship's propulsion system. "We haven't seen this design in... How long would you say, Science Minister Ran?" A willowy alien with pale blue skin consulted something on her wrist. "About 800 years, by Earth measurement. Most civilizations abandon such methods shortly after achieving interstellar travel." The gathered representatives nodded knowingly. "And this hull material," continued the Talon, his voice dripping with false fascination. "Simple processed metals? How quaint." The Jexari abandoned metal hulls after discovering the limitations during their early exploration period. "When was that, Ambassador Noor?" A crystalline being shimmered as it spoke. "Nearly 2,000 cycles ago. We found that metal hulls become dangerously brittle when exposed to certain common radiation bands." Jun Kim's knuckles whitened as he clenched his fists. Hana could see the muscle in his jaw twitching. Next to him, Science Officer Minji looked down at her boots, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment and anger. The Vaughn delegate, short but imposing with prominent ridges on his forehead, stepped forward to examine the hologram. "Perhaps the humans would be better off returning home until they've properly evolved their technology. Space can be unforgiving to primitive vessels." At this, John took half a step forward before Hana's hand on his arm stopped him. "Thank you for your concern," she said smoothly. "But the Pioneer has safety redundancies built into every system. We're quite confident in her capabilities." "Confidence is often the companion of inexperience," said the Vaughn with what passed for a smile on his rigid face. The mockery continued for nearly an hour. Each system of the Pioneer was displayed, discussed, and dismissed as outdated or dangerously simplistic. The life support system was barely adequate for short journeys. The navigation computer was charming in its limitations. Even the crew quarters were deemed unnecessarily wasteful of space. When they finally moved to the formal dinner, Hana hoped for a reprieve. The dining hall was spectacular. A dome of transparent material that showed the stars above, and the curved surface of Rigel 7 below. Foods of various colors and textures filled floating platters that drifted among the tables. But the respite never came. "Tell me, Captain Park," said a Nexil diplomat as they were seated, Do all Earth vessels rely on such basic shielding technology? It seems remarkable that you survived the radiation bands near the Cygnus crossing. Hannah took a small sip from her cup before answering. We mapped our course carefully to avoid the highest radiation areas. Ah, said the Nexil, antenna twitching in amusement. The long way around. How much did that add to your journey time? 3 months, admitted Hannah. The table erupted in poorly concealed laughter. Across from her, Jun stabbed at something blue and gelatinous on his plate. His eyes met Hannah's briefly, a silent communication passing between them. She gave him the smallest nod, acknowledging his restraint. Further down the table, Engineer Do-Yun was cornered by 2 Thailand scientists who were asking detailed questions about the Pioneer's engine core, not out of interest but to highlight its shortcomings. And this fusion containment field, it requires constant monitoring, one asked. Do-Hyun nodded stiffly. We maintain a rotation of engineering staff. Fascinating. Our ships haven't required such oversight for generations. The systems regulate themselves. As the dinner progressed, the mockery became more pointed. The Vaughn representative suggested that perhaps humans were an interesting experiment in whether lesser technology could succeed through sheer determination. A Jexari scientist wondered aloud if Earth's isolation had caused them to develop along an unfortunately limited technological path. Through it all, Hannah maintained her smile, though her eyes grew colder with each comment. She answered questions politely, acknowledged the superiority of alien technology with grace, and gently redirected the conversation whenever possible, as the evening finally drew to a close. The Talon ambassador raised his glass in what appeared to be a toast. To our new human friends, he said, his voice carrying across the hall. May your presence among the stars be educational for all of us. Laughter rippled through the room once more. Hannah stood raising her own glass. The room quieted, perhaps curious what the human captain would say after hours of subtle and not-so-subtle insults. To new beginnings, she said simply. And to the understanding that technology is just one measure of a civilization's worth. For a brief moment, something like uncertainty flickered across the Talon's face. Then his superior smile returned, and the dinner continued. Later, as the Earth delegation returned to their primitive ship, Jun finally let his frustration show. How can you stay so calm, he demanded. They spent the entire night laughing at us. Hannah looked back at the glittering station before the airlock closed. Let them laugh, she said quietly. They don't know us yet, but they will. 3 days. After the uncomfortable welcome dinner, the human delegation was still struggling to make any real diplomatic progress. The alien representatives remained politely dismissive during trade discussions, treating the humans more like curious children than potential allies. Hannah sat in her small office aboard the Pioneer, reviewing her notes from the morning's frustrating meeting. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Enter, she called. Communications Officer Tae Jin stepped inside, his usually calm face tense with concern. Captain, we're picking up unusual readings from Rigel's sun, he said without preamble. Massive energy spikes in the last hour. The Aishima Station's scientific division just sent out an alert. They're predicting a major solar flare within the next 40 minutes. Hannah frowned. How bad? Bad enough that they've initiated emergency protocols. The station's moving all ships to the far side for protection. Before Hannah could respond, the station's alarm system began blaring. Red emergency lights flashed through the windows of the Pioneer as announcement messages in multiple languages echoed through the docking bay. All personnel report to designated safety zones. This is not a drill. Solar radiation event imminent. Shield reinforcement in progress. Hannah and Tae Jin rushed to the bridge where the rest of the command crew had already gathered. Through the viewports, they could see frantic activity as alien vessels detached from docking clamps and maneuvered toward the protected side of the station. Status report, Hannah ordered. Science Officer Minji looked up from her console. It's a Class X solar flare, Captain. Biggest one recorded in this system in over 50 years. The station's outer shield should hold, but they're evacuating the exposed sections as a precaution. Suddenly, their communication system crackled to life. A station-wide emergency broadcast cut through the chaos. Attention all vessels and personnel. We have a critical situation in Diplomatic Section Alpha. The Talon flagship Luminari has experienced a catastrophic power failure during emergency detachment procedures. Their ship is partially fused with the station's outer ring. Life support is failing in that sector, and 30 diplomats are trapped with no evacuation route. Radiation levels are already exceeding safety parameters for standard rescue operations. Jun Kim stepped forward. That's the section where they were holding the cultural exchange meetings today. On the main screen, they could see the sleek Talon vessel. Its normally gleaming hull was dark, with only emergency lights blinking sporadically. The ship had attempted to detach from the station, but had somehow become entangled in the docking mechanism, creating a dangerous situation as the solar flare approached. The emergency channel erupted with chatter as various ships offered assistance, only to back down when the radiation readings were shared. Even the advanced vessels of the Galactic Confederation had their limitations. Hana exchanged looks with her senior staff. "What's our radiation tolerance?" she asked Engineer Dohyun. Consulted his readings. "The Pioneer's hull isn't as pretty as theirs, but we reinforced it after the Tau Ceti crossing. We could get close enough for a rescue attempt if we reroute power to the forward shields." Hana nodded decisively. "Open a channel to station control." The PO screen flickered, showing the Vorn commander who had been so dismissive at dinner. Behind him, various alien officials were frantically working at control stations. "This is Captain Park of the UES Pioneer," Hana said calmly. "We're offering our assistance in the rescue operation." The Vorn commander blinked his large eyes in surprise. "Your assistance?" "Yes. The Pioneer can approach the damaged section. We can evacuate the trapped diplomats." There was a moment of stunned silence before the Vorn found his voice again. "Captain Park, perhaps you misunderstand the situation. The radiation levels in that sector are already at lethal levels for most species. Your vessel would disintegrate before reaching them." Hana kept her expression neutral. "I believe we can manage the approach. We've dealt with similar radiation environments during our journey here." The commander's expression shifted from surprise to something like pity. "Captain, your courage is admirable, but your ship is simply not equipped for this kind of operation. We have rescue specialists who can't get close enough," June interrupted, stepping into view beside Hana. "Every minute we waste arguing, those diplomats come closer to running out of air." A new face appeared on screen. The Talon ambassador whose mockery had been particularly cutting during the welcome ceremony. His normally composed features were tight with worry. "My daughter is among those trapped," he said, his voice stripped of its earlier condescension. "If the humans believe they can help, let them try. We have no other options." The Vorn commander looked conflicted, but finally nodded. "Very well. You have clearance to approach the damaged section, but understand that this is likely a suicide mission. We will not be responsible for human casualties." "Noted," Hana said simply. "We're moving into position now." As the communication ended, June turned to Hana. "They still think we're going to fail." Hana's lips curved in a small smile. "Then we'll just have to surprise them." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency as the Pioneer detached from its docking position. Engineer Dohyun worked feverishly at his station, rerouting power systems and adjusting shield configurations. "Approaching damaged section," announced the pilot Subin, her hands steady on the controls despite the tension in her voice. "Radiation, levels rising." Through the viewport they could see the damaged area clearly now. Part of the station's outer ring had buckled where the Talon ship had malfunctioned during detachment. Emergency barriers had sealed off the section, but they could see movement behind the transparent portions, the trapped diplomats watching as the ungainly human vessel approached. "Hold position here," Hana ordered. "Prepare the emergency airlocks. We'll need to create a temporary passage between our ship and the station." As they maneuvered into final position, the station's automated defense systems activated, performing a standard safety procedure, a deep scan of any vessel approaching a damaged section. "They're scanning us," Minji reported, watching her instruments. Hana nodded. focused on the rescue plan. Let them. We have nothing to hide. Little did she know that the routine scan would reveal secrets about the Pioneer that would change everything. In the station's central command, the Talon science officer stared at his screen as data from the routine scan flooded in. His three-fingered hand froze above the controls, his mouth opening and closing without sound. "What is it?" demanded the Vaughn commander, pushing past junior officers to reach the console. The science officer's voice trembled. "Impossible." By now, several other high-ranking aliens had gathered around the display, their earlier panic about the solar flare momentarily forgotten as they tried to make sense of the readings. "Run it again," ordered the commander. The science officer shook his head. "I already did. 3 times." On the screen, a detailed analysis of the UES Pioneer revealed something that defied everything they thought they knew about human technology. The ship's hull, which appeared to be simple processed metal, was actually composed of quantum-entangled particles maintaining perfect resonance with each other. What looked like crude plating was in fact an intricate lattice of materials that shouldn't be possible for a primitive species to manipulate. "This can't be right," whispered the Jexari representative, his crystalline form vibrating with agitation. "According to these readings, their hull isn't just radiation resistant. It's actively processing the radiation, converting it into usable energy." The Talon ambassador leaned closer. "What about their power signature? It doesn't match what we observed during docking." The science officer called up another display, because what we observed was only part of it. "Look at this energy curve. It's like nothing in our database. Their ship's primitive power system is concealing an energy signature that shouldn't exist according to any physics we understand." Alarms began blaring as the scan penetrated deeper into the Pioneer's systems. Security protocols triggered automatically at the detection of unknown technology. "Most remarkable of all," said the science officer, his voice hushed with awe, "the human vessel appears to be partially phase-shifted into another dimension. That's why our initial scans showed only basic technology. We were seeing just what they wanted us to see." The Vaughn commander's face darkened. "Are you suggesting this was deliberate? Some kind of deception?" "I'm not suggesting anything," replied the science officer. "I'm simply reporting what our scans show, and they show technology far beyond anything we possess." Meanwhile, aboard the Pioneer, Hana and her crew were focused entirely on the rescue mission, unaware of the commotion their ship's scan was causing. "We're in position," reported Subin from the pilot's seat. "Radiation levels are high but within our tolerance range." Hana nodded. "Engage magnetic lock on the damaged section. Do-hyun, status on the emergency airlock." The engineer's fingers flew across his console. "Ready, Captain. We can create a sealed passage directly to the trapped diplomats, but we'll need to hurry. The solar flare's leading edge will hit us in less than 15 minutes. "Jun, you'll lead the rescue team," Hana ordered. "Take Minji and Hyun with you. We need to move fast, but stay calm. These diplomats have probably never seen humans in action before." Jun gave a tight smile. "Time to show them what Earth can do." As the rescue team prepared at the airlock, Hana received an unexpected communication from the station. "Captain Park," the Vaughn commander's voice sounded strangely stiff. "Our scans indicate unusual properties in your vessel's construction." Hana exchanged a quick glance with Tai-Jin. "Is this really the time, Commander? We have people to save." There was a pause before the commander responded. "Proceed with your rescue operation. We will discuss the scan results afterward." The magnetic locks engaged with a deep thud that resonated through the Pioneer's hull. The emergency airlock extended, creating a sealed corridor between the ship and the damaged station section. Jun and his team moved quickly, their specialized suits offering additional protection against the radiation. Inside the damaged section, 30 diplomats from various species huddled together as life support systems failed around them. The air was growing thin, and emergency lights cast eerie shadows across alien faces taut with fear. The door at the end of the chamber suddenly hissed open. Jun stood there with his team, his face visible through his helmet visor. "We're from Earth," he said simply. "We're here to get you out." The Talon diplomat, who had been so dismissive of humans just days before, stared in shock. How did you— The radiation levels— Questions later, Jun interrupted. Right now we need to move. Single file, please. Watch your step in the corridor. With practiced efficiency, the human team guided the diplomats through the emergency passage and into the Pioneer. Some needed to be carried, others stumbled along in disbelief, looking at the interior of the human ship with new eyes. The last diplomat had barely cleared the airlock when the station's sensors detected the solar flare's arrival. Brace for impact, called Hana over the ship-wide communication system. The flare hit with tremendous force. Energy cascaded across the station's shields, creating a spectacular light show visible through every viewport. The Pioneer shuddered but held firm, its primitive hull absorbing radiation that would have crippled most vessels. In the station's command center, alien leaders watched in stunned silence as their instruments confirmed the impossible. The human ship was not only surviving the radiation surge, but seemed to be thriving in it. Their shields are actually strengthening, murmured the science officer. They're using the solar energy somehow. All diplomats secured, Captain, Jun reported as he returned to the bridge. Medical team is attending to those in distress, but no serious injuries, Hana nodded. Take us back to the main docking area, Subin, nice and easy. As the Pioneer glided away from the damaged section, every eye in the command center followed its path. The atmosphere had changed completely, the mockery replaced by confusion, respect, and more than a little fear. I want to know everything. About that ship, the Vaughn commander said quietly, and I want to know why the humans have been hiding their true technology from us. The Talon ambassador, whose daughter had been among the rescued, stared at the retreating human vessel. Perhaps, he said slowly, we have been too quick to judge our new neighbors. 5 days after the solar flare incident, the grand hall of Rigel 7 looked much the same as it had during the welcome ceremony. The crystalline walls still shimmered with light, the refreshment tables still offered exotic foods from a dozen worlds, and the same representatives from the 12 advanced civilizations still filled the room, but everything else had changed. Captain, Hana Park and her crew entered the hall for the closing ceremony, and the difference in reception was immediate. Gone were the smirks and whispers. Instead, the alien dignitaries stood straighter, their postures attentive rather than dismissive. Some even bowed as the humans passed, a sign of respect they had not bothered with before. "This is weird," whispered Jun to Hana as they walked toward the center of the hall. "I almost prefer the mockery. At least I understood that." Hana's lips curved slightly. "Enjoy it while it lasts." The Talon ambassador approached them, his daughter at his side. The young diplomat still bore faint marks on her skin from the ordeal in the damaged station section, but her eyes were clear and focused as she bowed deeply to the humans. "Captain Park," said the ambassador, his voice stripped of its former arrogance, "the Talon Confederation wishes to formally thank you and your crew for your bravery. Had you not acted when you did, many lives would have been lost." Hana inclined her head. "We're glad we could help, Ambassador. Beyond our gratitude," he continued, "the Talon High Council has authorized me to formally request technology exchange programs with Earth. We believe our civilizations could learn much from each other." The careful phrasing wasn't lost on Hana. The ambassador, who days earlier had treated humans like amusing primitives, was now choosing his words with diplomatic precision. "That's a generous offer," she replied. "I'll convey it to Earth's diplomatic corps." Before the conversation could continue, the Vaughn commander approached. His stocky frame seemed less imposing now, his manner almost deferential. "Captain, the Von Imperium extends an unprecedented invitation," he said. "We would like to offer Earth immediate membership in our defense coalition. Your unique approach to technology would be invaluable to our combined security efforts." Jun stiffened beside Hana. 2 days ago, this same commander had suggested humans might be better off returning to their home planet until they properly evolved. "Another generous offer," Hana said smoothly. "One that will require careful consideration by our government." Throughout the hall, similar scenes unfolded as alien representatives approached the human crew members with offers, questions, and thinly veiled attempts to learn more about the Pioneer's true capabilities. Science Officer Minji found herself surrounded by Jexari researchers, their crystalline forms vibrating with excitement as they peppered her with technical questions. "Your phase-shifting technology?" one asked, trying to sound casual. "Is it applied only to your vessels, or have you incorporated it into other aspects of your civilization?" Minji just smiled. "I'm afraid I'm not authorized to discuss the specifics of our engineering approaches." The most persistent inquiries centered on Chief Engineer Do-hyun, who had been renamed Sung Lee in the official records after the scan revealed his true identity. The aliens had assumed this must be a high-ranking official traveling incognito, perhaps the actual designer of the Pioneer's revolutionary systems. Do-hyun, playing his part perfectly, revealed little despite the barrage of questions. When pressed about the quantum-entangled hull, he simply shrugged. "Earth's history forced us to think differently," he explained to a group of fascinated aliens. "When resources are limited, you learn to see possibilities where others might see limitations. Our early ships had to withstand harsh conditions, with materials most civilizations would consider inadequate. We adapted, but the energy signature," pressed a Nexil scientist. "Our readings indicate technology that shouldn't be possible given your civilization's development timeline." Do-hyun smiled enigmatically. "Perhaps your timeline needs revision." As the ceremony progressed, the Galactic Confederation's High Council presented formal documents recognizing Earth as a civilization of special standing. The status, typically reserved for ancient and highly advanced species, came with significant trade benefits and technological access rights. Hana accepted the documents with appropriate gratitude, careful not to show the surprise she and her crew felt at this dramatic reversal of fortune. "Earth looks forward to peaceful cooperation with all your worlds," she said during the brief acceptance speech. "We have much to learn from each other." When the time came for departure, the Pioneer's crew returned to their ship with mixed emotions: pride in their success, amusement at the aliens' change of heart, and relief that their mission was nearly complete. "They still don't understand, do they?" Jun said as they walked through the airlock. "They think we were hiding some grand technological secret." Hana's eyes sparkled with suppressed laughter. "Let them think what they want. Sometimes perception is more valuable than reality." As the Pioneer prepared to leave the station, an unexpected message came through. "Captain Park, this is Station Control. We've arranged a formal departure escort for your vessel." Hana raised an eyebrow. "An escort?" "It's a traditional honor for distinguished visitors," explained the controller, his tone respectful. "If you'll follow the designated path, please." As the Pioneer detached from the docking clamp and moved away from the station, the crew gasped at the sight that greeted them. Dozens of alien vessels, from tiny personal crafts to massive flagship carriers, had arranged themselves in two perfectly straight lines, creating a path for the human ship to travel through. "An honor guard," breathed Taijin. "I've only read about these in the diplomatic briefings. They're usually reserved for elder race vessels or high councils." As the Pioneer passed between the lines of alien ships, each vessel activated its ceremonial lights, creating a glittering corridor of respect through space. From some of the ships came signal flashes in standard code. "Safe journey. Return soon. Honor to your kind." On the bridge, Hana watched the display with quiet satisfaction. "Set course for Earth, Subin. Let's go home and tell them what we've learned." "About the aliens?" asked June. "About ourselves," Hana replied, "and how sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage of all." The Pioneer accelerated smoothly, its supposedly primitive engines glowing with quiet power as it moved away from Rigel 7. Behind them, the assembled representatives of 12 advanced civilizations watched the ungainly human vessel depart, still, puzzling over the unexpected enigma humanity presented. They had welcomed humans as amusing primitives, only to discover they might be the most advanced species of all, masters of the art of hiding revolutionary technology in plain sight.